if you're the smartest one in the room, you are in the wrong room. If you think that you're the smartest one in the room, you might not actually be the smartest one in the room.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lucky Goat podcast. My name is Adam. I'm a resident director here at LG, and today I am joined by Kyle and Vishan.
Hello, hello.
I am so over caffeinated right now.
Oh yeah.
What's new? You know. Anyways, guys, today I kind of want to talk about the transition between being a videographer and becoming a cinematographer, and why a lot of people never make that jump. But before we actually get into that, let's talk about what's the actual difference between the two.
I think we talked about this on a previous podcast. We kind of like glanced over it, yeah. But biggest difference is, as Kyle had said last time, one-man army versus captain of a team, and I think that's a good differentiation.
It encompasses it quite a bit. I think also the mindset or the approach.
Mindset
of a
always
gig.
biggest thing.
I was looking up some common ways people might differentiate the two, and a really good point of view I saw was going into a gig, the approach is drastically different. Whereas a videographer, you're hired to capture what's happening, whereas a cinematographer, you're mandated to create and to
It's capture versus crafting.
Yes, exactly, from the ground up, bring a vision to life rather than capture an existing moment.
Yeah,
I feel like that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, the question being, you said, what is the difference? No, sorry, not what is the difference, but how do you migrate from becoming a cinematographer from a videography background? I think it's about risk taking, and I think it's about stepping out of your comfort zone. I started off as a videographer. I worked pretty much for myself, with myself, for a couple years before I started taking quote unquote the bitch gigs on set. I was a PA for the art department, and then, you know, from there I'm like, okay, I don't want to be useless on set, let me get into grip.
well, when you were doing videography, did you already know that you wanted to make that jump? What made you,
I had no idea. That being said, I do love being part of something larger, and I think that working with a larger team for the first time, I kind of fell in love with it. And I'm like, okay, so growing up, I was always fascinated by things like crossword puzzles, Sudokus, things like that.
Nerd.
Lego, right? So to me, being on a larger film set feels like those little puzzles, and I like to see all those little pieces kind of come together and craft the whole. You get that final shot after, and you look at it, and you're like, oh, sweet bliss,
Yeah. Were you, when doing videography, I guess for a question for both of you, how aware were you of composition and lighting?
Oh, I mean, not really. Like, I was just there to shoot, like that was such like a thought that was so deep behind in my brain, like
And
it's the last thing I'm thinking about.
did the attention to detail of those two components come into play after you started to work more in film, or before leaving videography fully?
Well, I think of course it came about like before I even left the whole videography scene. A lot of my cinematography experience comes from like my own projects. What I used to do a lot of, like, I used to shoot mini cinematics, right? Where I would just film myself essentially.
Yeah.
So a lot of my knowledge when it comes to composition, lighting, and all that stuff, it just comes from experimenting with it myself. I wasn't really in that scene when I learned these things, but I kind of brought them onto myself, and then through that I was like, hey, this is cool, this is interesting, let's do this on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think personally, Dewey whooped my ass, bro. When I first started doing video, I would be so happy with this shot, and I'd be like, yo, dude, look how sick this is. And he's like, I don't like the movement. He's like, the framing here, what's happening? And I'm like, oh, okay, fuck me then. But but I think, like,
I thought it was cool.
but I think that, like, just like having a friend, like, who's more experienced than me in that domain, right, and kind of giving me those little nudges, like, hey, I think you could do this better, I think you could do this better, and then you start working on larger sets, you look at the DOP's like frame, like you just like steal a glimpse at his camera, and you're like,
Yeah.
yo, what are you doing
Yeah.
over there? And you learn just
Where's
like
your
little
thought
by little.
process?
But I still do videography gigs,
Of course.
right? And I think that applying my cinematographic, whatever, my cinematic whatever language,
To
right?
your videography, it definitely uplifts it and brings a whole nother level of
And
quality.
people like they pay a premium for that. You know what I mean? I could walk into a nightclub, I make whatever $5,000 a night for like 4 hours of work. I don't have to edit anything, and I still feel like I haven't made that full leap from videography into cinematography. I'm kind of happy doing both,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
which is
definitely think
fine.
it helps you in a way
Yeah.
doing both. And speaking on the fact of doing both, another big thing for me is that I used to be a photographer before I was a videographer.
Mhm.
And I feel like photography is such an important learning experience that you can apply to cinema, to videography,
Yeah, of
especially when it comes to
course.
composition, framing, all these different things. It kind of teaches you to look at your frames differently, to analyze
Yeah.
what it is you're looking at
Also
with
choosing your moments more
of course,
consciously.
of course, but not to be cliche, but it teaches you to look at things almost with a cinematic eye, a photographer's eye, right?
Mhm.
It kind of crafts the way that you look at things to be different.
Yeah.
I think it's also the way that you formulate things and the way that you plan your shoot. I think that being a cinematographer, there's a level of organization that I've learned from being on set that didn't come naturally to me when I was purely doing videography.
What's an
So-
example of that?
So let's say, whatever, last weekend I shot F1 weekend. I was shooting like whatever, New City Gas or whatever. Okay. Or even when I do a wedding, in my head, I'm like, okay, this is my shot list for the day or for the night. Okay. I got this shot. This is good for the edit. I got this shot. Moving on. Next shot. Next shot. All right. I'm done.
Yeah, you're
Right?
shooting
Like,
with more intention.
exactly. I don't have to go and hit rec 200 times and hope I got something.
Yeah.
Like I put myself in the position to
That's
get
something
exactly what I
I
need.
wish I had learned earlier. Because then doing your D rush and you're just sitting here with 200 clips in front of you, like,
Yeah.
dude, I
Yeah.
gotta sort through all this. I don't even know where the good stuff is, right?
Yeah.
I think
So even simple stuff like that, just like shot listing beforehand,
Yeah.
making sure you get
you're kind of overshooting.
overshooting's a
being
big.
attentive of what overshooting, like the threshold of overshooting looks like.
But
gig
it's
to
also, I
gig.
think, about knowing when to be flexible, because sometimes I'll already have gotten the shot and in my head I mark the check on my
That's
checklist,
another thing.
but then a moment just pops up and I'm like, this is a beautiful moment, and if I don't
Yeah.
hit record, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
I think there's a really big value as well when you look at the difference between videography and the steps that a cinematographer takes approaching any kind of work is like actual intention of what you're trying to shape, but also the skill of knowing how to work better in uncontrollable circumstances coming from videography. As a cinematographer, if you're on a set where maybe it's more run and gun and it's more independent rather than large scale, everything's planned out months beforehand, there's an element of in the moment to what you're shooting. Having a true background in videography, working with unpredictable lighting, people who aren't familiar with being on camera, trying to coach them on the fly. All those skills definitely have a leg up when it comes to more focused cinematography work
Mm.
because you are used to and conditioned in working in very unpredictable environments. And I think that's a muscle you don't really get to learn when you work in a very functional set environment.
Definitely. Like, I think in a way we could almost say like videography and cinematography, these are like two planets in the same solar system, right? They have so many interchangeable skills that flow between them,
Mhm.
right? And you gain an advantage coming from one background to the other, of course, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna learn so much by switching, but of course the stuff that you've already learned is gonna carry you very far already off the bat,
Yeah.
right?
Even the way you may look at gear could be different. A lot of videographers, you collect gear, you collect whether, it's convenient or it's, a better camera, a better set of lenses. You may not know the reach as to why a cinematographer would want to level up their lighting kit or their
Yeah,
lens
of course,
selection,
regarding
or
gear,
get a
like,
different brain for more dynamic range. But as a cinematographer, as a videographer rather, you may not be aware of like how far that knowledge can go in a cinematography
intentions change, right? Like,
lens. Yeah.
of course, there's all these different things that come into play, right? But now I kind of want to talk about what scares a lot of videographers off, or what stops a lot of videographers from actually making that jump. Because I, for one, like when I was like, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Money, money.
Among
Money
other
for
things,
sure.
money is always, even
Dude,
even going to videography from photography, dude.
this is one thing I've been saying about the film industry for years now. I do think that it is so exclusive because of the financial burden of becoming a filmmaker, and you're always going to find yourself investing in something new, and whether it's a new skill set or a new software or a new piece of equipment, and like just starting off, you know what I mean? As a videographer, I had a $2,500 camera, a $800 gimbal, and that's kind of all I needed, you know, and a $500 lens. Now I feel like the scope of everything that I'm doing, one of my lights costs as much as that camera, and it's just a light, right? I need multiple of those lights to make this set work, right? And I think that that is the scariest thing, right? I think planning is also the scariest thing, right? Think about like the nightmare that is location, finding location every
Yeah.
single time,
Yeah.
you know? Something like all those little details, doing it alone, and if you only know how to operate alone, that's scary, right? Trusting a team when you've only been able to work alone, it's a big leap, it's a
Yeah.
big jump.
I think feeling confident that you could be like a leg in a larger team when what you're very much used to is being like both legs everywhere for
Mm.
yourself.
But just going back to what you were saying, Vishan, really quickly, talking about the fear of like investment into gear, all this overhead of pre-production and planning. As a whole, looking and it's very, very dependent on how you look at it, right? Because you can easily step back and look at this as a whole, and it's so overwhelming, and that's what scares off most people, right?
Yeah.
It's just too much overall.
Mhm.
But you can take those little steps into, like, you don't have to go all out straight away, you know, to get to actually put a foot in the door of cinematography. You can make that first step with the stuff that you have and slowly build up towards that, right?
Yeah, you could start, by if you have more than one light available. And they don't have to be incredibly expensive lights. It could be something as simple as like 3 lamps in your house, and you have some parchment paper, and you practice softening some harsh lighting sources in your room, and you throw your camera up and you think, okay, how am I lighting with intention? What am I trying to evoke as an emotion if all I have is a frame and my light setup? And those kinds of at-home practices is what you can do to start thinking about how to have more intention with your skill set.
Sounds like you've done that before.
I actually haven't. It's
Okay.
something I haven't done, but I've watched a ton of videos on, how to do the three setup lighting at your house.
Yeah.
And like having a background light, adding depth, creating depth rather. I think that's a really great way that you could just pick up with what you have if you're a videographer and you've found yourself in that line of work. Like on your off time, practice intention because you have the skills. Now it's about stripping back and using them consciously when you're looking at emotion and storytelling rather than just capturing what's given to you.
I think I also have a really good answer for what else could be really, really scary. Making that leap, putting your ego aside. Some people, I'm not going to point fingers, but if you're watching this and you feel like it suits you, put your ego aside, my boy. Listen to what I'm saying. Sometimes, all the time, it's okay to just be a student. If you're the smartest one in the room, you are in the wrong room. If you think that you're the smartest one in the room, you might not actually be the smartest one in the room.
Probably.
And that's what, like, coming back to the point that I made earlier, like, don't be afraid to be the bitch on set. Go PA for some guy. Go grip for a gaffer or a DP that like knows more than you.
Yeah.
Because that is gonna accentuate and it's gonna push your skill set so hard. You can't learn as efficiently if you're just trying everything out by yourself here and there.
You brought up a really good point earlier as well, about the level of difference and the financial burden it can take to even make that transition. And a big thing from the outside perspective is like a job like DPing, a role like DPing, oftentimes is gate kept by the competition that already exists in your city. And it's even tough to just find the humility in going up to someone and saying, I'd like to mentor, I'd like to follow, I'd like to shadow you, I'd like to pull up for free. And one, be okay with that for your own finances, find free time to go to a gig to learn. And then also accepting that you have a lot to learn because you're starting with a very limited level of knowledge. But how also realizing like the goal is to be alongside those people one day and be recognized for your own vision that you can bring to the world of cinematography. But taking those first steps, you know, the humility that it takes, the acceptance of a potential financial burden it could take, the time commitment it'll take.
Yeah, man. The
It's
time especially, bro.
time is, it's a lot, and
I
it's
feel
not an
like-
overnight thing. It's years. People work years just to be recognized by their peers as someone who's ready
Yeah.
for the ability to convey a story.
Working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Even me, when I first started, like I was working as a bartender,
Mhm.
like 5 days a week,
Yeah.
and then for another 4 to 5 days a week, you know, like I'm doing like double shifts, but I'm like, hey, camera's in my hand, or I gotta go edit this right after work. And I think
Exactly.
that time management is also scary, dude.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're a student, whether you're an employee, you know, like
Mhm.
I think you just need to be driven, and I think you really just need to love the game.
You have to love being a student as well.
Yeah.
You can never think that I know everything I need to know.
You wear a lot of hats as a cinematographer and just working in the film industry, but that student hat is one that you never take off.
Mhm.
You know?
The moment you stop learning, you lose. And there's so much tech, and everything is changing so quickly, like right in front of our eyes. Like I think right now we're kind of living in the golden age of cinema, right? There's so much new things happening, and it's
Yeah.
always constantly evolving and evolving. And I think that we need to stay learning, otherwise we lose. I
Mhm.
don't want to be like some ancient fossil who's like, I'm still using this tech from 35 years ago because I like it better. Like HMIs.
And talking on that, like,
Tungstens.
not really controversial point, but film school, for example, in an age where things are moving and changing so quickly,
Mhm.
You have some dinosaur telling you that like tungsten is the way to go.
Hey, you know, don't knock
It's
tungsten
not-
in
yeah,
film. It's a great
don't- yeah, it's
combination.
great.
Don't knock tungsten lighting. It does wonders for skin tones.
Oh, you scared of little LED?
But I will say it's so convenient to have the world of LED lighting.
Yeah.
It's so convenient to have digital cameras. You know, if anything, it's helped. It's created a more accessible avenue to the reality of
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, 100%.
You're able to make more mistakes. You're able to have more leeway with, you know, electricity.
Yeah. It's also like the rise of the digital age in cinema, dude, has also, I think most importantly, it's given birth to a lot of new voices. You know, you
Yeah.
don't need like $35 million to start a production company
Yeah.
and like, you know, make
Yeah.
a movie anymore. You
Yeah.
could do it in your backyard with like an A7 IV and like a dream.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But back on topic, I think another really important part of kind of dissolving that fear of making that transition is using the resources that are in front of you. You know, YouTube, massive, massive, massive resource. And that for me, especially, was something that kind of demystified the entire cinematography world for me. Like just learning
Yeah.
about lighting,
Yeah.
learning about lenses, learning about cameras, all these things beforehand were so foreign to me. And so, like, where do I start kind of thing? Do I go to school for this? Like, where can I learn this? Who do I ask? Let's go watch a video.
You know what
Lucky Go
another
podcast.
you know what another great place to learn a lot of that stuff is? Watching movies. Watch movies consciously.
No, you're absolutely right on that though. Like even for me, I still do this up to this day, but I'll find a still from a movie that I really, really like. What I'll do is I'll bring it into Photoshop and then I draw my plans.
How
Like
would
if
I do that?
exactly, if I had to recreate this frame, what would I do? How would I light this? Right?
Yeah.
And you try to like guess like, okay, what are the dimensions of this room? Okay, if it's this large, then this is what my overhead would look like. And I think like if I enjoy a movie, I always watch it like 3 times. It's really, I don't know if it's like intense or like OD, but like the first time I watch it is just to absorb, right?
it's the
And I'm
experience.
exactly, and I'm like, okay, wow, I really like this. My second time watching it, I break it down as a director. What are the little like, what are the beats that they're taking? How did they like, why did he make this choice to put this guy here? Like all those little tiny minute details, right? And then the third time I watch it, which is the most in-depth one, which is where I'm pausing it every 5 seconds, is like, as a DP, how did you get this done?
Yeah.
You know, what is the rig that you used?
Yeah.
How would I have done this rig?
Yeah.
You know?
We used to do those exercises. I went to film school, I went to Trebas, and while it, I could recommend it for some things, I could say it's not worth it for a lot of other things. Besides the point, there are some great lessons that we implemented. One of them was exactly as you said, we were given stills from a movie. We had to decide lens choice, what our lighting in camera and our white balance was set to, the composition, the angle, the T-stop for your focus depth, your lighting sources. We had to recreate it and you'd get graded on it. But beyond that too, we started off by actually analyzing paintings from Caravaggio, chiaroscuro technique. And we'd have to floor plan how we think the painting would have been lit if we were to recreate it in real life. And that as an exercise is so fundamental, just to examining not only like what a light source can do, but how much one light source can be capable of. Where your placement, if you have anything in front of it, gobo wise, if you have diffusion or you have some type of large window surface, even stained glass, like there's so many old techniques that are amazing how you can use your light instead of just having a light on a person. How and why and what is it evoking? It's great exercises.
Yeah.
Take what exists, figure out how it works, and then reference it when you do your work.
What's also helped me a lot is studio photo shoots, bro.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I had my like first studio and when I was like first entering the realm of cinema, like like I don't know how it works in other cities or whatever, but at least here in Montreal, it's like if you rent things out on Friday, Saturday, Sunday is 1 day of rental. So you get equipment for 3 days for the price of one. So we only shoot on Friday. So I have Saturday and Sunday with all these lights in my studio, just like more or less collecting dust for 2 days. So what I used to do is I would just invite friends and I would just play with lights and half of it would come out terrible, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of testing, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. But then eventually you get this one setup that works and you're like, okay, I'm going to take a picture of that. And then you have that light set up forever.
Yeah.
And then next time I'm like, now I'm DPing a narrative and I'm like, oh, wait, I want my scene to look like this. Oh, thank God I've already done that light setup. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that when you get these like little kind of gifts, when life gives you those little lemons that is equipment rentals for a couple of free days, make the lemonade.
Oh yeah.
Lemonade. But yeah, back to that point that we were talking about movies really quick. I think a really important part of creating in general is consuming with intention, right? A big example, like even me, when I started making that transition, I started watching movies differently. I wouldn't look at it the same, right? I would notice different things,
Yeah.
right? And I learned so much from that.
There's a big conversation about that too. Philosophically, can you watch movies the way you used to without realizing it?
No.
Can you watch them just as a viewer? Or is there always a part of you that's ready to jump out of your
There's
seat
always
and
a
go
part of
like,
me because that part
oh my God,
is ingrained.
Did you see the blocking of that?
Yeah.
Did you see how they got to
If I notice it, that part of my brain is going to light up. I can't stop.
It made me enjoy movies more.
That's
yeah,
fair.
exactly.
Like,
I have a newfound appreciation.
Yeah.
Because I could still be like, oh my God, this scene is phenomenal. But now I know all of the reasons that
it was great. I loved it. And now I love it even more because of what went on to put this together.
Because I know the pieces of the puzzle.
I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, I was watching something, maybe it was something we were watching, And there was this emotional moment where there was like a little push in, and we were both like, "See that push in?" You know, because because of the script, that moment needs a push in. It's like the character moment,
Yeah.
and you just see this little.
Literally just off of that, little flashback to when me and V went to go watch Sinners for the first time. And the first time that, because there's this aspect ratio changes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And at one of the scenes, it happens. I'm just like, yo, did you see that, dude?
We're already like
Did you see that?
we're already looking at each other like shit-eating grin on our faces, just like, oh man,
Dude.
So like, yeah, I think that's the beauty of cinema, and I think that that's something that you can't really attain as a videographer if you're just stuck capturing a moment.
Yeah.
I think
It's a
take the
different
time.
worldview.
Yeah,
Take the time to learn.
take the time to learn. Take the time to try new things. Work with new people.
Have fun with it. That's the most important part, of course. Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and hashtag stop videographer hate.
But yeah, all in all, you know, that switch can be scary, but there's a lot of things that you can do to make it a lot smoother, to make it a lot more of an enjoyable experience. At the end of the day, there is no rush. You know, take your time, enjoy yourself, learn these different things,
Yeah.
and eventually you will find yourself where you're meant to be.
If you want
Right.
it, start doing it.
Exactly. Anyways, that was a really nice conversation, guys. I love that episode. We're going to wrap it up for today. If you guys enjoyed that episode, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, notifications. If there's any topics that you want us to touch on in a future episode, feel free to leave a comment and letting us know down below. I've been Adam.
Kyle.
Bye.
We'll see you guys in the next one.